here's a look at the top players available in the spring window right now. Caden Proctor there at the top, the only 5-star available. He is crystal balled to go back to Alabama. Another O-line there at the top in Jason Zandamela, Cormani McClain, Damien Martinez. We will get to them later in the show. But with that, let's bring in the world champion of breaking news. His name is Matt Zenitz, and he has the latest on what's happening in the transfer portal. Matt, the past 2 days, we've seen roughly 450 players enter the portal. During the entire portal season last year, there was a bit over 1,000 players. So relatively busy this spring, yet it doesn't really feel like that. Why?
That definitely feels busy to me. and the thing I'll say, so specifically with FBS scholarship players, it's been since the beginning of the week, so going back to April 15th, the day before the portal officially opened, so like when graduate transfers started going in a little bit more, it's been since that point 350 plus FBS scholarship players, which is actually up from last spring. That the reason that I think people feel like that, and that it's fair to feel like that in terms of maybe being a little bit slower and not a ton of action, maybe uneventful a little bit, is just the lack of big names that have gone in. There are obviously some exceptions, but for the most part, this was the expectation heading into this window, not only for us at 24/7, but around the coaching and personnel world, that the majority of players that ultimately entered during this portal window, we would be largely, maybe like 95%, back end of the roster type players that maybe to the casual fan, we wouldn't necessarily lead to some sort of significant reaction.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So there are a few top 50 players still available, quite a few 4-stars. What's the latest you're hearing on where these players might land?
Yeah, so a couple of the big names specifically, I'll start with Damien Martinez. Damien, one of the top offensive players in the portal, Oregon State running back transfer, who was a first-team All Pac-12 selection each of the last 2 years. The clear favorite at this point is Miami, but at the same time, Damien's going through a process right now where we'll visit Miami, but also has 3 other trips set up, one to Kentucky, one to Mississippi State, and then one to Arizona to go along with that, even though I'll emphasize once again that Miami at this point of the process is the favorite. Another of the top offensive players in the portal at this point is KeAndre Lambert-Smith, the former Penn State standout wide receiver who led Penn State with 53 catches last year. KeAndre, as of last night, has locked in his first 2 visits. We'll visit Auburn, I believe, starting today. The visit will go from today until Saturday, and then we'll go straight from Auburn to Texas A&M for a trip that will run from Saturday until Monday. But at the same time, even though those are the only 2 trips that are officially locked in at this point, I do think there's a good chance that ultimately takes a couple more before making a final decision, with USC, Colorado being specifically 2 places that would be good to keep an eye on. And I think I have a good chance of getting visits from KeAndre.
On an individual level, the success stories that come out of the transfer portal are fun to watch. Braden Fisk, Jared First at FSU are some that come to mind for me. So under the radar players, who should we keep an eye on in this cycle?
Yeah, so this is something that Chris Hummer and I have been working on the last couple of days. Thought it would be interesting, as much as people care about the big name players, obviously, that are going in. I feel like during the spring more so than the winter, the focus shifts to under the radar type guys that ultimately have a chance to move up and go from the group of 5 level, or potentially even the FCS level, to a Power 4 school and potentially become an impact player at that level. And a few that we've continued to get good feedback on from college staffs during the course of the last couple of days. CJ West, first of all, from Kent State, a defensive lineman from there. It was an all-MAC selection last season. He's been as popular as any player in the portal outside of some of those big names, well-known guys, since he decided to enter. Very quickly garnered offers from schools like LSU, Michigan. There have been a number of other Power 4 schools that have offered as well. as he was described to me, a massive human that it was disruptive last year for Kent State, had something like 50 tackles, 7 tackles for a loss, and is definitely in position to land at a high-profile school. A couple others to go along with that. You have a tight end from ECU who I'll read you something on him. So Shane Calhoun didn't put up big numbers by any means the last few years, so it wouldn't be somebody that necessarily would jump off the page from a statistical standpoint. But one of the things I got from an A-player personnel director on him is just he's someone that, even though he was underutilized in the passing game to a certain degree, had ECU not afraid to take on defensive players in the front seven, plus athlete with the ball in his hands that just didn't get it used as much as probably should have at ECU. And then one more to go along with that is Kieron Crawford, an edge from Arkansas State. After serving as a backup his first season there, blew up last season at Arkansas State and was one of the more disruptive players at the Group of 5 level in the Sun Belt Conference, and ended up with 25 quarterback hurries last year, which ranked as the 4th most in the Sun Belt. And he's somebody else who at this point is already garnering some interest from some Power 4 teams.
All right, Matt Zenitz with the latest from the transfer portal. He will be grinding it out for the next 3 weeks until this thing closes. Thanks for joining us. And if you are not subscribed to 247sports.com yet, what are you doing? Well, the good news is we got a deal for you. 50% off your annual subscription to celebrate the transfer portal cycle with us. Go ahead and join over at 247sports.com.